algebraically, you can solve it. It's not that complicated. I mean, let me show you the equation for that. That would be future value of growing annuity. And we're going to make these calculations next time, but just to show you, it's PV divided by R minus G, R being the interest rate, G being the growth rate, times 1 plus R divided by 1 minus G, the whole thing raised to the power T minus 1. And this assumes the growth rate is actually less than the interest rate, because otherwise the infinite series that we simplify to PV divided by R minus G is not convergent. This doesn't even work. But, you know, I could be saving 10% more every year, even though I'm earning 8% on interest. Since I'm doing it in a finite number of times, that calculation has a valid value. So we're going to build a little Excel function that we could call and say, calculate me the present or future value of a growing annuity if these are the inputs. We're going to even make more complications to this. We're going to say, okay, right now that T refers to number of periods. We're going to say, okay, how many periods are there in a year? Are you doing monthly, weekly, quarterly, daily, so on and so forth? Which is not terribly complicated, but again, makes the formula even uglier. And this is just solving for the future value. If I ask you, if I told you the future value, solve me the growth rate that I must have if the interest rate is this, present value is this, and number of periods is this. Again, algebraic solution is possible. It's not that complicated, but it involves some inverse exponentiations and some logarithms. And it also depends upon, and that assumes that G is going to be less than R. If G will be greater than R, could be greater than R, the solution is actually not, you cannot write just one formula because it depends upon how many periods are there and so on. But that's not a problem for Excel. All Excel needs, tell me how to calculate the future value. If I give you the interest rate, the present value, the growth rate, and the frequencies and the number of years, that's it. The rest is going to be done by Seeker. I mean, I called it Seeker from GoalSeek, or maybe I should call it Seek Nova. Seeker Nova instead of Supernova. It's that simple of a problem. I mean, just to show you, let's see, let me add, I'm going to give you a taste of it. I'm going to calculate present value of a periodic set of payments. Let's call these payment. And let's leave the interest rate, number of years, number of payments in a year. Those are my inputs. And this list is automatically updated. Well, let's see. And that's a target value. So I'm going to do the present value. PV, and I'll show you easier way to enter it, but in this case, let me put 12 here. PV, if the first argument is interest, that's the annual interest divided by number of payments in a year. The second one is number of periods, number of years times number of payments in a year. The third one is payment. Fourth one is if there is a starting, a final value. In this case, we don't have it, so I'm just gonna leave it as blank. Unfortunately, Excel does debit credit stuff, so it puts a minus into that. Now I have something that says, if I tell you the periodic payments, the annual interest rate, number of years, and number of payments in a year, that's the present value of that, okay? Now I'm going to ask the following question. Let me go back to red mode. Suppose I'm going to buy a house that's $100,000. Oops, too many zeros. That's my target value. I want to know what my payment is going to be if the interest rates is as such for a 30-year mortgage. And I want to solve for payment. Now my setup is done. Done. Now there is an Excel function called PMT, okay? It does that for you too. But if you were doing an annuity that was growing, Excel doesn't have it. Or you would have to write PMT for a growing annuity. Which is not terribly complicated, but doing just present value, future value calculations, even on VBA that I'm going to show you, is not terribly complicated. So reduce problems to simple things. Then let Seeker or Seeker Nova do the rest of it, okay? That's all you need to do. Now I have this, and suppose I wanted to ask the following question. I know I want to make payments of $500. That's the only thing I can afford. How long should my mortgage be? Assuming I can't do anything about the interest rate. So I'm going to change first my unknown to number of years. Obviously, nothing changed here because it was already balanced. But now I'm going to change my payment to what I can afford. Well, it turns out if I can afford only $500, it's going to take me, in fact, it didn't even solve for it. As you can see, that difference is not zero. The reason is there is no solution that's going to give you 500. Why? Because 500 is payment of $6,000 every year. At that interest rate, you're going to have to pay 6,600 something, okay? It doesn't even pay the interest, so there is no solution. But if the interest was 2.87, why didn't it solve for it? It should have solved for it. I'll look it up, but it should have solved for it. Let me change something. Yeah, it's doing it now. Yeah, something happened in that transition. Yeah, turns out you're gonna need about, depending upon the interest rate, 23 years. Again, solving for that is not that complicated. Without, if we assume there's no growth, but we're gonna introduce some other stuff. No, I'm out of time, but let me just mention it. We're gonna introduce a balloon payment, something that's at the end. Okay, Excel doesn't have a function to solve that for you. But here, all you have to do is change your unknown. That's it, done. Okay. We'll continue with that complicated stuff next time. You're gonna learn how to do some of this stuff. By the way, this is a very useful little macro. It goes back to the last sheet that you visited. So if you had a workbook with 20 sheets, you went to one of them, you don't remember where were you last, just hit the U-turn, you'll go back there. But that means you have to use this as a template. I'll see you guys Wednesday here. From now on, all classes will be here.